Hi, Geoffrey here. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to implement Laravel Live Search in using AJAX. So I have set up my database table here on MySQL, and then I have done a dummy application here that is pulling these posts from this database here. So I have made this application. It's just for the purpose of this tutorial, and I have this input box here that I want to use to do search in this list. So every time a user enters a character here, AJAX sends a request to the database, checks the title of the post, and compares the title that matches whatever has been entered here, and then it returns whatever matches that content. So all the posts that match whatever is typed here are going to be returned in real time. So let's jump in and write this code. The first thing we are going to do is to write a route that is going to handle this request. So to save time, I can just copy one of these routes, but just remember that this route has to be outside the middleware auth, the auth middleware, because if you put it inside here, it will not be run unless someone is logged in. And where we are, you can see these are posts that do not require anyone to log in, so the route must be outside the auth middleware. And then I can call this maybe something like posts and search. And then here I can do search posts. This is the route that I am going to be calling, and then I can do here something like search posts. So this search posts is a method in the front-end controller that we don't have, and therefore let us head there and create it. So head over to front-end controller, and down here add that method. So public function, and that, and then this function is going to take a parameter. Remember, it is going to be requesting some data. So request, sorry about that, request, and down here we are going to do something shortly. The next thing I would like us to do is to make sure that we are calling this ID. So here, this is the input that is taking our whatever we have typed, or our search query. So here we have this input, and so we want to make sure that it has ID, which we are going to use to listen to changes in it. So in my case, my ID is here. It's just called search posts, and therefore I now can go ahead and write some code that is going to be used to get my input and send it to the server using AJAX. So I can go to my footer here. This is where I have written most of my JavaScript, so I can just add another script tag here, and then here I want to write some jQuery code, and for the purpose of saving time, I will be copying some code that is I used to do these calls, and there you go. So body on key up, so this function is listening to the key up action, and then key up, I want this key up to be on this ID. So every time this ID has a key up, so replace it there. Then I want you to do something. For now, let us just log something on the terminal. So changed, or probably we can just get that input, whatever has been entered there, so we can say variable search query equals, and because we are using the same input, we can just say, we can call jQuery and say this dot this dot value val. Okay, So this variable here contains whatever has been entered into this input, and therefore we can try log this to the console and see whether we have something. So if I pull out my console, then I refresh, I can do something like D, and you see we have a D there. So if I do something like this is a book, you can see it's logging every action, every change is being logged to the console. And if I delete, you can see again it goes logging every action. Wonderful, that has been done. So the next thing we're going to do here, we don't need this console, we are going to be calling our AJAX request. So we can just write our AJAX code here. So dot AJAX, and then what do we want to do here? We want to tell it that the method here is going to be post, and then we also need to tell it where it will send this thing, and we want this thing to go to a route that you remember we have created. When you go here, you remember we have this route, search posts, so we want to send it to that particular route. So we can just say route and then add we need to do here, we need to have double quotes. Remember the rules of strings. If I put a single quote here, this will read as if I have terminated this string, and so it will not understand what it is supposed to do with this part. So we need to use double quotes here, or we use double quotes on this outer one, and then we use single quotes on the inner one. Those are the rules of strings in most programming languages. And then we need to pass data type, and this one we want to pass JSON. And then what is the next thing we need to do here? We need data, the data that we want to send to the server, and this one is going to be an object, and the object you want to pass here, the first thing I want us to pass is the CSRF token, so that we don't have issues with AJAX. So we can pass a token, and this token is going to just generate CSRF and token. And then the next thing we will need for our data is now whatever we are searching. So this is request, so search request, and we pass it here as search request and search request. So what have we done here? We have a method which is post, you have a URL which is to a route, search posts, we created that. Then we tell you that we want the data type to be JSON, and then we have data which is an object with two elements. We have the CSRF token that is going to validate our authenticity to send data to the server, and then we have the request, the search request, which is whatever the user is typing here. So every time there is a change, this one will trigger an event that is going to be sent. And then the next thing that we will need here is what happens when we have a success. So you just say on success, I want you to on success, I need you to do what? I need you to run a function, and the function that I want you to run here is going to receive a response. This one you can call it whatever you want, must not be response, but I like to call it response, and then you do some stuff here. So again, we are going to come back to this part. Let us first of all send this data to the database, to the server, and see whether we have any problems. So we have our search there, and then this data is going to be sent, and even without doing anything, if we have an error, it's going to show up. So let us try to do D, and yes, we have this post, and when we open it in the network, let's see what this one is saying. Post is not supported, so we need to make sure that this route is a post. Remember, if AJAX is passing a post here, it must be received by a post in the routes. So if I refresh this page now and I try to do D, there is nothing. So it looks like we are making proper progress. So here I can just write a query to get my data. So I can say variable request, and then I get, what do I want to get here? I want to get whatever has been sent here, so I can get that. And then I want now to query the database and get whatever was whatever posts match whatever query has been typed here. So I can say variable posts equals post. Remember, post is model, so you must make sure it's imported up here, and then post, and then we are going to say here where, and notice that we are going to be using like, because we want to get the posts whose title is likes, or which title is similar to whatever query we are writing on that input. All right. So we are going to say posts where, here we are going to have the posts title, so we can come to the database and grab it. Sorry, we can come here and grab the posts title. That is what we want to compare. So where the posts title, and then here we are going to say like, then this is what I was telling you now, like, and then here make sure you are very keen about what we are doing here. Then you add that, and then you have a dot, and then after that this is to concatenate whatever you want to compare with. So in this case we are going to add this, our query from the user, and then we are going to concatenate one more time, and then we add another percentage sign, and then we go out and make sure you get all of them. All right, so let me reduce the font slightly so that you can see this in one line of code. So let me make this maybe 18, 17 maybe. Oh, all right, maybe I can just keep it at 20, and then I can push this one over. So yeah, okay, so we have posts here, and then we have the model where post title is from the database like, and then you concatenate whatever has been has come from AJAX call, and then you make sure you use the get function to get all the posts. And then from that, the next thing that we are going to do, I just want us to return a JSON here with all our posts. So return JSON encode, and then we have our posts variable in here. So this, if we are successful, we'll return all our posts. And then when we come to the footer, if we console log response, console log this response, we are going to get all our posts in the log. So let us refresh and try and see whether we don't seem to have an error. So let me do something like dash, and you notice that as I type here we are getting some data. So when I do D, we had 5, O we had 2, that is dash and how much. Then I continue type E, we had only 1, and then this one we also have 1. So apparently we have returned the data. So now what we need to do, we need to make sure that we take this data and replace what with the data. So how to do that? We need to do some coding here, but before we even go here, you want to make sure that your table, the table that you want to replace, the table body has an ID. So we can do ID, and then this one we can call it something like dynamic row. You can call it whatever you want. This doesn't matter, but make sure whatever you call here is what you're going to use on your AJAX success function. So on this success, I want us to do some few things. Number one, I want us to declare a variable here called var code table row. This table row, for now it's empty, but this is the variable that is going to store our rows, the rows that we are going to use to replace whatever table is here for now. Okay, so that one is going to be empty for now, and then we are going to go ahead and say every time we have a response, go and get, all right, go and get an element with an ID of this dynamic row we put here. Okay, that dynamic row, and then set the HTML of that to nothing. So what that does is that every time we have an input, it initializes this variable with nothing, then it sets our table to, so it removes basically all this content here. This content is removed, this content is removed, and now this one is left empty. All right, and then the next thing that we want to do after that is now create our table. So we are going to run our for each here. So each, this is a jQuery for each, and then we are going to get res. Remember, res is whatever is here, so this response. If you here you have called this variable another thing, or this whatever is here is must be whatever is here, because you want to loop over that. All right, and then here we are going to run a function, and this function is going to take in two parameters. The first one is the index, and the other one is a value. Okay, and then you make sure that here you add the some brackets so that we can be able to write some code inside this function. Now you remember the variable we set here, this one is what we want now to set some data in. So what do we want to set here? We want to create another table row. For every time, for each response, we want to create a table row. All right, so we can basically come here and grab this table row as is, and then we paste it here, and that looks ugly. Let me just format it a little, just make sure that this is in one line of code. Yeah, beautiful. And then when that is done, this is not going to be like this, so we don't need that. Here we need to add plus, and this one will end here. All right, so plus, and then also here we don't need this, so we are going to have plus, and then here we are going also to have plus. Okay, beautiful. So what we have done here, we have taken the table row, and then this table row that was blank here, and then we have set some table rows into it. So for every response, for every row that comes, create a table row with this table data content here, and then this is the post. Now instead of post here, we are going to have this value. Okay, we're going to have a value there, because this value is what contains the description of, or the title of our table, the description, sorry. So we can tick that, and then we pull the table, post title and the post body. And once we have done that, the next thing that we need to do is to set it on this table here. So we can now grab this and put it here, and then we say this one we want to append. And what do we want to append? We want to append this table row. All right, so with that we can test our application and see what we get. So refresh our app, we don't seem to get a problem, and now I start typing dash, and probably looks like it poured everything down there. So let me see where we get something wrong. This table row is that table row, so dynamic row .html is nothing, and then okay, so what's happening here? Let's refresh this and check it again. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 6. So if we clear this, or probably maybe what we can try to do is to log. Let us try to log here. So console.log, and let us log maybe the table row here and see what we get. So oh sorry, we have a syntax error. Oh sorry, I see. I think we don't even need this. Here we copied these things from PHP and we did not change them to JavaScript syntax. So instead of an arrow here, we should have a dot. So let us now refresh and see whether we get it right. Yeah, that's okay, and does, and perfect. You see, as I start typing, this one filters my content. You see, if I start typing something like how to install Python, so I start saying install, and you see it has filtered these two. So here we have install, here we have install. All right, what if I start typing something like reasons? So here I come here and reasons, and these two have reasons. This one has reasons, and then we have why, and then we have P for Python. You see, this one filters the other one, gives us only one with Python. So I think that is okay for this tutorial, guys. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel so that you can follow my content. Thank you, and see you in my next tutorial.